Good morning. For me, anyway. Good afternoon for you, Mr. Dave Foy. Welcome in. I'm thrilled to have you.
Jonathan, that's brilliant. Thank you for inviting me. We've chatted a fair number of times already, but it's good to do it live.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. And I think everybody else is as well, because we have quite a number of people waiting. So I'm just going to go
Very
ahead
nice.
and assume that everything is good. I think I find it really silly, when there's that 15-second delay, like the news broadcaster that's like, yes,
Yeah.
Dave, I can hear you. Thank you. Trying to avoid that.
I'm anxiously watching the chat.
Waiting for somebody to say, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Zach's in there. Zach's got us covered.
perfect. Well, we are kicking off right away. No time to waste this morning. So I'm thrilled to have Mr. Dave Foy here with me. And we're going to be talking about just a variety of things. So we have, over the last year, really, talked quite a bit about all kinds of different things. We were both kind of on a path of choosing which builder we were going to go forward with. You came kind of from the Webflow direction, and I was coming from the Oxygen side. And we ultimately chose diverging paths, but I think we're both relatively happy with what we ended up with. Maybe relatively isn't the right word. Maybe particularly happy. So
Mm.
I wanted to, well, actually, I was going to say I wanted to invite you on. That's not quite true because the deal here on Inside Link is that the guest gets to nominate who comes after them. And my good buddy Taylor Drayson, who's a fellow Brit, he nominated you. And
I heard.
so I was really excited when he did that. I said, yes, that's exactly who I wanted to come on.
Nice.
And so here we are. So we'll just
Nice one, Taylor.
leave just a couple of broad topics out there. So we're going to talk about Bricks
Mm.
Builder, course creation, and then we'll kind of see where the discussion goes. And then, of course, if we have some, community input in the chat, we'll keep an eye on that.
I
So
have my
first of all,
eye on the chat.
absolutely. So of course, I'm sure the vast majority of people watching this know who you are, but if you want to give a quick little intro and let us know all about you.
I will. I'm Dave Foy. I am an online educator, course creator. I focus on basically teaching non-coder WordPress users just how to build WordPress sites more confidently, more profitably, take away the stress, make it all possible for people. I'm originally an actual teacher teaching actual small children, which is a tough crowd. And then I became a web designer for sort of 16 years. I've been building client websites for 16, 17 years. And it was really about 6 years ago that I decided to converge my two passions. I couldn't let go of the idea of the reason I left being a teacher was because of the awful government bureaucracy and, silly view of what education should be.
Mm-hmm.
It had become nothing to do with inspiring young children to have a lifelong love of learning whatsoever. It was all about targets. So I thought, I'm getting out of this. But I just couldn't let go of the desire to teach. It just stayed with me and it just kept coming back and back. It was like a little, you're a teacher, you're a teacher, you're a teacher. And so I decided to kind of, combine those two things, which is what I've been doing ever since. And I'm probably most well known for teaching Elementor to start with, because that was my page builder of choice. For my, not necessarily from, well, we can talk about this, but not necessarily for myself, but actually for my kind of chosen audience. It's perfect at the time. I've since diverged from Elementor, let's say, to other things. But yeah, that's the little potted history.
Well, so it's interesting because I meant to bring that up, that you have done, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 or 5 different iterations of your Elementor content, and then also for other, I guess I would say brands as well.
Yeah, the actual Elementor courses and things like that, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually started, well, I mean, the reason I chose Elementor just very, very briefly back then was because I had actually been working in web design with quite a few like non-coder, non-techie kind of colleagues, like the designers, the marketers, the ad guys, all those kind of people involved in a project. And I was the bottleneck. I was the developer. I hand coded stuff, it was kind of hardcore. And so I was the bottleneck. And they were on the side, like behind my back, discovering all these kind of new page builders at the time, Aveda, Divi, Visual Composer, all those kind of things.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So
Visual
they were
Composer.
building their own pages, damn it, in the background. And I thought, I suddenly realized how these new tools could really democratize web design and web development and allow people to do it who probably just wouldn't have been able to get a foothold. And Elementor at the time was only new. It was I think it was a beta when I first started using it. Yeah, can you believe this? Elementor was really buggy back then.
Sounds oddly familiar.
Wow, it was pretty buggy. Maybe not many things have changed on that front, but it just allowed people to. It was just such an easy tool to design with. So yeah, I started recording YouTube content around that and doing webinars and things. I then produced No Stress WordPress. I think I did version 1. I did version 2 of that as well, which is the curse. You know this very well. The curse of teaching this stuff
Twice already.
Shit changes.
Yep.
So yeah, things change, and so I remade that. I did a course on sort of sales funnels, building marketing funnels for non-marketers, and that was called No Fear Funnels. That was using Elementor as well, and I think that might have been it, because we'll talk about it. But I got very disillusioned with Elementor. So
for sure.
Yeah. Quickly
in the chat, I know we have a couple people, more people popping in here. I see we got Leanne from Edmonton, Alberta. We got Taylor Drayson in from the UK. We got Singapore. So I was just curious. I always like to ask where everybody is from. So while we're continuing our chat here, if you can drop that in, let us know you're here and where you're from. That would be amazing. We've got
50 people, Jonathan. 50 people.
Yeah, man, we're popping off. It's just the beginning too. YouTube takes like anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes to kind of push out the notifications. So usually the graph is like this, and then it starts to really pick up. Bucharest, Romania. We got South Africa. And wow, look at all this stuff pouring in. This is amazing.
What a world we live in.
It really is incredible. That's honestly, that's why I really wanted to build this stream in a way that's super consistent, so people know that it works for that time. There's a stream that I love to watch every Friday night, and it happens roughly about 9 p.m. my time, because it's happening Pacific time here in the US. And I'm almost religious in my attendance.
Set your watch to it.
Exactly. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What a world we live in. We're just broadcasting everywhere, and I know lots of these names as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So many familiar faces and names. So thank you all so much for joining. Keep in mind, if you want to drop in the chat any questions for Dave, if you have questions about bricks or course creation or anything like that, we may not get to them just sort of in the ebb and flow of our chat right away, but we will definitely revisit.
If you could do us a favor and make those questions nice and easy, that would be perfect. Nothing too difficult.
Nothing too stressful. Yeah, absolutely. So the interesting thing, I think, from my perspective is, like I kind of already touched on, we're sort of at the same point. You were coming back in from you did Elementor, then to the Webflow system, which in terms of Webflow, I'm not super familiar with it, but it was relative to Oxygen Builder, from my understanding. And
yeah.
So, super complex, class focused, really, really capable. But of course, the drawbacks of Webflow being it's not a part of the WordPress ecosystem was a big reason you came back. And so we were exploring the question of where to go next at the same time. So I'm curious, there was a chunk of time where we both kind of went radio silent, in the mid to late last year. And I'm just curious what was it that you were really looking for? And you kind of already touched on something as well that I think is super important, which is the choice of using Elementor because you knew it was the right fit for your audience, as opposed to, something that you were personally thrilled to use. I think that's an important distinction as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm as a teacher, I feel like my job, and I don't want to make it sound too kind of high level, but my job is to really kind of help and guide people to do their best work. And so I feel like if I'm actually going to be teaching something and selling courses on that thing and evangelizing about that thing, or let's say, or at least recommending that thing, I want to make damn sure that I absolutely believe in that system. I just can't do it any other way. And so the reason I left Elementor behind was for exactly those reasons. I just thought I can't put my back into this platform anymore. Frustrating the hell out of me. And so I took some time off in 2020, actually, took some time off and ended up, as you say, with Webflow, which was brilliant for many, many reasons. I love Webflow, and it really helped. Webflow was really good for me because of my hand coding past.
Yeah.
I hand coded websites for a long, long time. And so for me, being able to actually set my own classes and to use combo classes and to have that level of control in a graphical user interface was just mind-blowing. And actually, the people that I taught Webflow, I did a course from WordPress to Webflow, and actually the majority of people I taught on that course found it quite easy to get their head around. You know, I thought, I'm not sure really, classes, it's a bit developer-y, isn't it? You know, it might be beyond the understanding of somebody whose brain is just wired for design or for non-developer-y stuff. But if you tell people, look, you've got this set of styles and you're just going to give that set of styles a name, just a preset. You know, that preset might be pre-header or grid 2 or, you know, whatever, big image, something along the, whatever it is, and just give it a name. And every time you use that name, boom, there's all those classes back. People can understand presets. They already understand, you know, in page builders, picking an element and styling it. So it's just one more step. Just give it a name and bring all those back at will whenever you want. That's, you know, as you know, the gist. But yeah, I ultimately found that I actually probably would have carried on using Webflow if I'm quite honest. But I found generally that my audience just wouldn't make the shift from WordPress. Some did. I'd say about 10, 20% did. But most stay with WordPress. And I missed the community, and I missed all this.
I mean,
you know,
I was gonna say that's a thing that I've wrangled with for many, many months now, is just the I don't know, the volume of community that will follow you as the creator, but from you know, one piece of technology to the next, and also balancing what you feel is right and the best fit for them and yourself. That's a tough, you know, line to walk. And you obviously want to create a commercially viable course, but you also don't want to fill it with fluff and be teaching something just to teach it.
Yeah. I'll say that when I decided not to teach Elementor anymore, it wasn't a great business decision at all, as you can imagine. I mean, Elementor pump allegedly millions into ads, you know, and their platform is growing fast all the time. It's a massive influx of people. A lot of them are complete newbies who have no idea. They don't. One of the reasons I made my No Stress WordPress course is because I very quickly detected that people were coming to Elementor thinking that Elementor itself was WordPress, and had no clue about posts and pages and custom post types and plugins and the whole architecture that this page builder was kind of plugged into. I had no clue. So by that point, I'm not saying this to brag, but I'd built a multiple six-figure a year business teaching Elementor mainly. And I don't want any points or prizes for this or anything. I'm not telling you it for that reason, but letting go of that, I could have just carried on, rinse and repeat. No Stress WordPress 3, 4, 5, and just carried on doing it. Grit my teeth, never touch Elementor myself in my own personal use, and just carry on. But yeah, I just gave all of that up completely. Much to my wife's consternation. So she despairs of me sometimes. But yeah, so to your question, like coming back to WordPress, I actually hadn't used WordPress for about a year because of my, you know, throwing my toys out of the pram with Elementor and then going to Webflow and all that kind of thing. And so coming back to WordPress was actually a very scary prospect, because 1 year in WordPress in web design is a long, long time. And so much has changed. And honestly, guys like you, guys like Paul C, were really helpful in, like Kyle as well. Kyle Van Dusen was brilliant, you know, in just helping me navigate this new kind of Gutenberg block-based landscape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will admit, in a sense, coming back was a blank slate completely. And now I look back at that and think that was actually a great thing. I'm really pleased about that because it gave me a chance to just come at this with a clear mind and just to see what I wanted to do. So yeah, actually, so what I decided this time to definitely do was to find something. I like to pick a tool, as you have as well. I know some people like to teach this and that and the other, and just kind of spread it around. I like to teach one tool, get really good at that tool, know it inside out, so I can teach it inside out, and I can really help people with it as well. And so that was what I was looking for, something that I would be happy to use with all of my requirements, especially with a lot of my requirements for kind of like global styling and like completely custom global styling, possibly with classes or something else.
Yeah.
But I wanted something also that my audience of non-coder, non-techie, non-developer people could also get their head around. And so that was my criteria, really, coming back into this. And it took me months. Or it took you and I know, because we had several chats about it. Months and months and months of testing, experimenting. Yeah.
I distinctly remember, you know exactly what I'm going to say. I distinctly remember sitting in Colorado in June, and both of us just on like a 2.5 hour call, like scratching our heads, being like, but this approach has this problem, and this one has this problem, and we talked about this very thing about it being the right fit for the audience and ourselves. And I think by like September, we both sort of were on the path, but still very, very treading lightly down it. And it's an interesting evolution. And I'm curious, your I guess read into the types of people. I think you kind of already answered that are joining your Bricks course and using Bricks. Probably has a similar parallel to the people that bought my Oxygen course, because that sold extremely well. And likewise, me shutting it down was, it was a financial hit, even despite all the stuff that happened, last year. But the learning curve was there, but I think people got it. I think the class first builder was so revolutionary for, non-techie folk that had never even written a single class before, that it was like, wow, it unlocked this new world of possibility. Do you find that people are having that same Eureka moment as they're joining, probably hopping from Elementor into Bricks?
Yeah, I think so. It's a little bit early to say, because I ran a pre-sale for the course back in December last year to take pre-orders.
Maybe it's not even open. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, no, it is. I mean, well, it's not at the moment, but I ran a pre-sale. I always, the system. I run a pre-sale, make sure there is actually demand and people actually will pay for the thing before I start making it, really. And then made it over the course of a few weeks or months. And then I've just opened it again, just very briefly, just to a section of my email list the last 24 hours, which was absolutely like superb, brilliant launch. And there's a lot of interest in Bricks. And then my plan is I need to just sort a few things out, update a few things in the course, and then I'm going to actually open it again properly. And I'm planning for it to actually be open all the time. So rather than opening it and closing it, I'll have it open all the time. So, but yeah, people coming in, one of my tasks in sort of selling, not just selling the course, but selling the idea, even the concept of Bricks, was trying to convince people that I think a lot of the Bricks content out there, the training out there, there's some superb Bricks training out there already. Paul C does some amazing stuff. Imran Siddiq does some from Web Squadron. Kevin Geary obviously does some amazing stuff as well, and produces, ACSS and frames, which I love and we can talk about. So, there's a lot of education out there, but I also feel like a lot of it is aimed at people who are a bit more advanced and a bit more developer-y, let's say, if that's a word. If it's not, I've just invented it.
It is here.
And so it is here, developer-y. We're all feeling developer-y. And yeah, so my task was to try to show people. I ran a free webinar, like a free little masterclass thing for people, just showing why I love it and why actually it is completely, you know, if you can use Elementor, you can use something like Bricks, you know, the things with classes and stuff like that. You don't have to, you know this anyway, but you don't have to use classes at all. You know, you can set your global styles up in the sort of theme style feature, with all the kind of preset styles for typography and colors, and there's global styles for every single element. You know, you can globally style a lot just with the standard kind of global styling that's just built into Bricks in general. So you don't have to use classes at all if you don't want to. You know, you drag in a section, you create some columns, you pop in some content. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not that difficult really, and it's not that dissimilar to Elementor. It's actually got probably a lot more features in terms of, you know, the sort of the dynamic content, the interactions and the conditions and all those sorts of things as well. So yeah, it was a little bit of a hard sell, I would say, to start with, in just convincing people that, yeah, this system is something that you can use to that particular audience. I've had feedback back. I would say generally 75% of the feedback so far has been along the lines of, you were right. You know, yeah, perfect. And in fact, this is better. You know, classes, boom. You know, my mind is. Somebody emailed me this week saying, literally, my mind is blown at how this is going to make building and maintaining sites so much easier. So there is that aspect of it, and I think I've got about 25% of people. There is one guy in particular who is very honest with me, and I asked him to be. We're really good friends actually, and he's one of those kind of 25% who's okay. He's not going to find it easy to start with, and yeah, he's, you know, said, I'm going to have to go back through it a little bit, and I'm going to probably need a little bit more support and help, and it sometimes gets a little bit hard to understand, but yeah, generally speaking, it's not been too bad bringing that audience over. It's been fine.
On that topic, you know, one of the big reasons why I made the decision to go the blocks route, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Gutenberg Core is a viable product. It's really not. We can't build a functional site, especially any kind of dynamic content, with it. So that's why I chose the GeneratePress, Generate Blocks route. And it dawned on me after using it for some time that I kind of, like you're talking about, you know, this switch in mindset. I realized so much of the work that I was doing for clients, and also that the types of people who were taking my Oxygen course were doing, was, in my opinion, significantly overcomplicated by Oxygen and a class first builder and so many approaches. And what I also found was the types of work that I was taking on was so much more complex because of the fact that those tools could do it. You know, building crazy private membership sites, and, you know, like subscriptions with all kinds of conditions, and just
don't get me started.
Yeah. So I know you know this.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So that's something that I was curious to talk to you about, because we really haven't spoken on that front of, like, the opinions that we both hold on that, where I really do feel that the vast majority of people building in tools like Oxygen and Bricks don't actually even need those tools. The types of sites, a 5-page small business site, I don't think needs to be, you know, in those sorts of tools. Well, maybe that's not quite true. Maybe not the maybe it's not quite as a sweeping statement to say it doesn't need to be in that tool, but is and can be overcomplicated by those tools.
Yeah, they do make things. They can. I think it's because Oxygen and Bricks. I think Bricks does it differently, but I'll come back to that. I think Oxygen and Bricks have got so much potential power and flexibility available if you want to use it, you know. And I think that, yeah, there is a temptation, I think, for people who do enjoy development, who will use all the tools, and they'll use it for every job. I actually feel like Bricks does it differently to Oxygen, in the sense that you can use, I didn't really use Oxygen a great deal actually, but I used Webflow a lot, and I gather that Oxygen borrowed quite a few concepts from Webflow.
It was emulated. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very much so. So yeah, I feel like Bricks, for me, Bricks is still, and I totally agree with what you're saying. By the way, I'm not disagreeing at all. But I feel like Bricks is still a tool that you could create a one pager, a quick 5-page brochure, and it would be the suitable use for the tool, because a lot of that complexity and power isn't there. You don't even need to see it. You don't need to be aware of it at all. You can create a quick 5 pages. It's got a nice template library. You can have a starter site with your kind of basic sort of sections and certain commonly used templates set up, which I would always recommend that people do anyway, and put those together in a really rock solid, fast site very, very quickly. But I do agree with the spirit of what you're saying, in that actually using the raw base Gutenberg metal and then necessarily having to put something on top of it. I think if you're going to put something on top of it, Generate Blocks is absolutely the way to go. And I'm just getting off on a tangent separately, but
Please do.
Generate Blocks was the only other contender for my kind of tool of choice to teach and use. Was my only other contender. And I desperately wanted to go that route. Absolutely. One, because Tom Usborne can do no wrong in my eyes as a developer, as a business owner, as customer support. I used GeneratePress back in the day. It was my choice of theme. I absolutely love everything Tom does, and you know that if Tom has released a feature, it damn well is going to be well considered, no fluff,
Yep,
perfect. And so I desperately wanted to use it. For me, and this is just a personal opinion, I find often when you tell people a personal opinion about something, for yourself, like, I don't know, I don't drink alcohol. They'll tell you every reason why they drink alcohol and why they like it, and they are not going to give up alcohol whether you like it or not. You're like, dude, all I said was that I just choose not to. And I think in the WordPress world as well, I think people get very tribal about
even
their
more
tools
so.
and the tattoos and everything
Yep.
else. With that caveat said, it's just my personal opinion, but I just personally found that Generate Blocks, unfortunately, is still built on that bloody awful Gutenberg UI, and I just can't get on with it. Personally, I just find it, I'm pushing a rock uphill, like I'm designing a website in a spreadsheet, like it's just uninspiring and hard work. And no matter how much Tom does as a layer on top of that, I just couldn't get away from that. And I used Bricks, and I was just instantly just, look, Mom, I've got a page.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it was just much more intuitive and quicker for me. But definitely the fact that Kyle uses it exclusively, you use it exclusively. I know Paul C is really into GeneratePress, Generate Blocks as well. Like, I don't blame you at all. And I think for that kind of, if you want something that's lightweight, is basically WordPress core, then you can't do any wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting. I found that there's, like you just alluded to, there's a love it or hate it. I mean, Taylor said in chat, Gutenberg is like Marmite, you love it or hate it. I mean, it's pretty
Absolutely.
much it. And it's interesting because I wouldn't say that I love it, but it became a tool for me that had so much hidden power, where, like, especially GeneratePress, I think there's a misconception about the distinction between GeneratePress as the theme and Blocks as your block package. I haven't delved into Bricks in great depth, but the elements in GeneratePress are essentially your templates, and then there's a lot of other components to it. But I've had a lot of feedback from members of my course that say, I gave this 4 or 5 chances, and then I jumped on your course and took it, and they were like, now I see. It took a little bit of a push. And that was really interesting because I experienced that as well. I had Kyle and Taylor both pushing me for months and months before anything happened with Oxygen last year. And I just said, no way. There's nothing better than Oxygen.
Mm,
And then I finally took the chance. I remember Kyle taking me through like a 2 hour back end tour of just everything, and I remember being like, that's pretty cool. And then I tried it a couple days later and was like, okay, here we are. So
yeah.
the spending a bit of time with either of these tools, I think, will shed some light on what makes the most sense. One thing I wanted to ask you about is in relation to these two products we're talking about, a big revelation for me was the fact that there's a lot of cases for me where I was either white labeling for other agencies or building for people who had a fairly technical contact that I was working with. And typically these people had some degree of WordPress experience. They were competent enough to go, adjust content and not completely detonate the page. But a lot of cases, there are clients that don't have that prowess, or there's other people on the team, HR or whatever, that needs to make changes, but they have, they can edit a Word doc and that's about it. So
Yeah.
that's something that for me has been really welcome with this generate blocks route, is I can confidently let people in and I'm like, it's a Word doc. You literally just click on the headline and,
Yeah.
and it's fast and easy to use. So I was curious, is that a consideration for you? Is that a component you teach in the course, is the client editability portion? And sorry to cut you off, but the reason for asking that is with Oxygen, I wanted people out of Oxygen as much as possible. ACF fields, whatever I could do to keep people out of Oxygen was my goal at all times. I'm curious how that, kind of exists in Bricks.
Yeah, I actually had the question from a couple of students who have gone through the course, and that's been the thing. It's like, right, okay, now what about client editing? I think with this version, I treated it as a version 1, partly because it is literally version 1. So I treated it as a version 1, which was a case of like, I'll just teach this thing and focus very much just on the core of building stuff with bricks. I have plans for a version 2 where I really want to expand it out a little, more into considerations of the entire nature of the project as well, in terms of, client editing and things like that, and going live and stuff. So yeah, it's something that wasn't a consideration at all. Somebody was asking actually in my group the other day, and my answer to them was, well, either, really, I can see 3 options. There's the same 3 options when it comes to client editing at all, of anything really. Option 1 is don't let them have access whatsoever. Just don't let them touch the builder at all, and just set up custom fields. They create a new post, fill those custom fields, and even do some funky things like giving them options for different like designs, so you can conditionally show either this one or this one, depending on whether they add a tag or switch a tag on a post or something like that. So all that's doable. Or just let them in, and it's easy enough, very easy. It's not that different to something like Elementor either. Let them in to just adjust the content, edit the headings and things like that. And if you have the woman that was actually asking me the question works with basically mom entrepreneurs who really want the control to be able to just put together stuff without having to ask her, the web designer. So my suggestion there as well was, to make sure that you sort of maintain that kind of design integrity, just design some little bits of templates and things and patterns, I suppose they will be in the block editor. Same thing really, and allow them just to pick and choose those templates. It's dead easy, drop them in and adapt those things from there. The whole, it's interesting because the whole issue of the block editor being the content editor and designing the actual website, it's a strange one for me. I can sort of see both sides. Like in one sense, I think that's great. The fact that people are editing the page almost as it is, almost. We know that it doesn't look exactly the same, but it's pretty much. So they can actually see that, they can visualize that. That's how it operates in things, like Squarespace and Wix, which I'm sure WordPress are mindful of and sort of trying to catch up with. So I can really understand the beauty of that, especially for kind of non-technical people. You and I set up that page, those posts and things like that, and they can go in and just edit those. So I can get it. But for me, I think it's the implementation of that that currently needs a lot of work. And I think even a lot of people who are fans of the block editor would agree. You know, I love the block editor for writing content and editing content. I actually really, really enjoy using it. But right now, for me, trying to make that editor, that UI, also the design and development interface as well, it just doesn't quite work.
Beyond a basic text editor, yeah, I can see
Beyond
what
the
you mean.
basic text editing kind of things, yeah. Yeah.
For I don't even know, probably like a year, Taylor used to just give me so much shit. He would say, "You have classic editor installed, classic editor installed." I'm like, dude, I cannot get my head around this interface. But the screen is white and it's, you know, the whole thing is gone. My admin bar is gone. The piece of familiar control that
Where's
I've
my
had
menu?
for 10 years. And I agree. It's definitely, it's got that overwhelming nature to the beginning when you first start using it. Not to sit here and dog on Quickly, but that was my response when I tried Quickly. I was like, what about an Oxygen type tool for Gutenberg? And then the interface loaded and I said, holy shit, we have this bar over here and this one over here and this one, then you've got this menu and this pop over. I was like, man, I want to like this thing, but the UI was too much.
It's a UI nightmare, yeah. It's quickly strikes me as, I think it's one of those things that certain tools suit certain people and other tools suit other people. It's horses for courses, you know. And I think Quickly for me was just one of those, I value clean, clear, well thought through interfaces that give me some simple choices up front and reveal the complexity kind of in the background, you know. It's one of the reasons why I love, for instance, using Basecamp.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too.
Yeah, we're both Basecamp users, and I suspect for probably the same reason, because it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of something like ClickUp or other things. But I realized that I just don't want all those bells and whistles. It gets in the way. I had the same thing with Quickly. It's like, wow, this has all the features, and a lot of people like the security of that. They like the security of, I can do anything if I need to in future.
Yeah.
Whereas I know that your philosophy, I know that Kyle's philosophy, hi Kyle, I know he's here. I know that your philosophy is just keep it simple. And if that even affects the kinds of websites that you're able to work on, if it maybe cuts off a certain level of kind of complexity of website that you would be able to take on, probably maybe wouldn't want to take on anyway, then so be it. You know, you can't please everybody, you can't service everybody, and
shouldn't try to either.
You shouldn't try to either. Yeah. So I had the same experience. I'm sure it's a great tool, and I'm sure that it can do anything you like, but it was a UI horror show for me.
Yeah. See, that's a really important point you bring up, is not trying to do everything, because I fell into that trap with Oxygen. There was this perception, you know, because I was making this content, that I could do anything in it, which for a long time I felt pretty much confident that, you know, in terms of capability and experience, that I was one of the top. And the trap that I fell into with that was, then I was picking up these clients that had these just absolute spaghetti nightmare webs of things that Oxygen was this magic bullet to solve. And it could, the vast majority of the time we could do it, but I didn't enjoy those sorts of projects. So there was a long time spent working on these just hellish nightmare type sites of you know, intense complexity. And I realized like, those are not the types of projects that I enjoyed. And I think that's a big factor into why I went the blocks, you know, GeneratePress, generate blocks route. And for me, it was like, I can build a site that's, you know, impactful and has, you know, verifiable business impact. And it doesn't have to be this crazy behemoth of a, you know, complex membership site. But with that said, I've still found myself doing those in GeneratePress. It's still possible, and you can still slap in a little bit of custom code, just like you can in Bricks and Oxygen.
Yeah, yeah.
It goes back to that tribal nature. Like you said, people just have that like rock solid grip on what they want.
I think it does. Yeah, it's always amused me. Really, I find it really just amusing. As I said, I like to pick a tool and stick with it and get to know it, and until that said tool goes by the wayside for whatever reason. But yeah, I personally just really like to do that. But it's not from a tribal identity kind of perspective. I I've just remembered now. I remember when I mentioned the possibility of using Webflow and being maybe just a little bit unhappy with Elementor, and I'd built a site in Webflow, and I was offering like some free training. And one guy, he was one of my students actually from the Elementor course. One guy was furious. I mean, absolutely furious, and said, you'll never live this down. You've absolutely ruined your reputation.
Wow.
I hope your business die. I mean, it was awful. He sent me email after email and started getting really personal,
Jeez.
about personal characteristics and something I was doing in a video, and like, you look stupid. And it's like, dude, it's just software.
Yeah. Good Lord.
It's just a tool to get a job done. Calm down.
It really is. It is wild. There's a couple people that I can think of distinctly off the top of my head that have had that same kind of, not as vicious as that, but reactions that you're just like, damn, like there's been some YouTube comments, and I remember deleting a couple people just saying, keyboard warriors is all it is. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Just feeling, it's feeling, undefeatable behind a keyboard.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, it doesn't bother me. It just amuses me, really. I think it's a funny situation.
Yeah, for sure. I think there was a couple of questions that I wanted to scroll back to while we have
definitely
a bit of a transition. So let's see. Elijah had a great question. He said, as someone who is, question for both of us, he said, as someone who's considered making an online course, what are some hidden considerations you'd recommend folks like me think through before embarking on such an endeavor? I think that's a fantastic question.
Oh, yeah. Very good question. This is the kind of thing we talked about a lot, isn't it? When you were thinking of making a course, and
the second go around, was a lot more, I feel like, streamlined than the first one.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I'll let you take this, but the thing that comes to mind for me initially is just, you think it's going to take X amount of time, and it's going to take triple or quadruple that.
Oh God, easily.
Always.
I'm terrible for telling people it'll be with you in 2 weeks.
6 weeks later.
Good Lord. Didn't say which 2 weeks.
Yeah. 2 weeks in 6 weeks.
Yeah. I think you must have learned a lot actually yourself about making online courses. I mean, there must be all kinds of considerations you've realized.
The thing that this go around, I actually used to do it with my Oxygen tutorial videos, was I have to do it in a complete dry run, not recording, but acting as though I'm recording, so that then when I come back around, I don't make, this bevy of mistakes and editing, I don't put myself in editing hell after the fact. So almost everything I've already done a complete pass through, and then that way, when you record, it's just so much cleaner. And I found that even though it obviously takes double the time to do it, the end result is better, less mistakes. It's more cohesive. And to some degree, I've started slightly scripting them, not like word for word, but I have kind of key points that I want to make sure I hit. Like, whoops, I accidentally forgot to set Z index on that element, so it screwed up something 15 minutes later. Those, I think the dry runs are super, super helpful. Time consuming, but really helpful.
Yeah. Well, from an actual course creation point of view, I think I've told you that when I'm making actual course videos, and this is going to sound mental, I tell people this and they go, what? But I script them, stick them on the teleprompter. No, sorry, not on the teleprompter, not when I'm doing these. I'll script them and I'll actually record the voiceover separate.
I forgot you did that. That is crazy. I still agree.
I read it out. But the reason is because I I just know that sometimes just saying a phrase just slightly differently or just missing a couple of words out can mean the difference between somebody got it or somebody going, sorry, what?
Yeah.
And so I find if I just spend a bit more time, really, I don't spend too much time on it. I know I've got very fast at this now, but yeah, just spending a bit of time just really kind of thinking about what is the cleanest, clearest, cannot fail to understand way of getting this topic, and then I'll read it out. I'll actually do it as a voiceover. I'll leave pauses in there for myself to give myself time on screen to go and click the things that I'm talking about, things like that. Put that voiceover audio into my video editor, hit play back the audio, and then I actually basically perform the screen actions while I'm listening to myself saying what to do. And I just find, for me, I've tried it all kinds of ways. I think it's because I'm an introvert, and introverts just need to get it down on virtual paper first. I just can't just do it off if I'm doing a live stream, a webinar, I'm teaching somebody live in a group, I'm doing any of those things, I don't script anything.
No.
And it's great, it's easy. But when it comes to courses, I don't know, I just can't do it. And I just find that, like you say, it sounds like it's a long-winded way of doing it, but actually recording the script, 5 minutes of just talking, dead easy, no mistakes. Record the on-screen actions, not really any mistakes.
Yeah.
And then it's just a case of just editing it a little bit, putting it together, and the end product is just much more kind of considered and careful. And so rather than, like this kind of thing where I'm sort of trying to talk at the same time and also click things and I just find that if I do both of them separate, I can concentrate on doing them both separate. And I don't know. I know it sounds absolutely crazy.
It makes total sense though.
You find your own way, don't you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, whatever workflow suits you best, absolutely. And
the thing I would just say to Elijah as well, that I just from a more kind of, I don't know, a higher level than just the actual course creation, I hear lots and lots of people all over the place all the time say, I want to make a course on such and such a topic. Once I've made it, how do I find people to sell it to, or what platform should I use, or ask all the wrong questions.
Yeah.
And I would say every single time you need. People don't like to hear it, but you need to develop a bit of an audience first. You need to produce some free content so that attracts people, so that you have then got an audience. Grab their email list, give away something for free. You've then got an audience to actually ask, how can I help you the best? What are you struggling with the most? Because what you guess people want to learn is probably not what people want to learn. I've made this mistake the hard way many years ago. So build an audience, find out first what they actually struggle with. Let them tell you what you want to make a course on, and then ask them to buy the course that you've got in mind. Once you're at the point you think, right, I've got an idea now for this course, I think this is going to be great, I'm going to teach them this and that and the other, then ask them to buy it. The course doesn't exist, ask them to people pre-order stuff all the time. People buy tickets for concerts a year in advance.
Yeah.
It's not strange.
It's funny, not to interrupt you on the pre-sale point, but I had a bit of a resistance to doing that this time around for the Generate course. The Oxygen course was a total stroke of good luck and just positioning with free content and unintentionally building that audience. But just recently, there's this new kind of like, I don't even know what you would call it, like fancy workout facility that's opening nearby. And my girlfriend was just so thrilled. She was like, this is the best thing ever. That I used to have one in the other place I lived, and now it's here. And she was like, and they're running a pre-sale, and it's $40 a month if you commit now, but it's $65 if you wait until they actually open. And I was just like, wow, that it never struck me that, like you just said, that happens all over the place. And so there's no reason.
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, it's the only way. And it sounds a little bit more long-winded, but you will. And you will be guaranteed to be making a course that people will actually want to buy, because people have put their hand in their pocket or got the card out or whatever, and actually giving you hard cash for that course. My view is, unless you actually ask people to pay for it, it's not an idea. It's not validated. Don't do it. Don't spend that time. Even if you say, yeah, but plenty of people have told me that they think it's a good idea. All these people have told me that they'll definitely buy the course.
Crickets.
No.
Yep.
No. You've got to get them to buy it first. So, but building that audience to start off with, even just with a few bits of how to, I generally find that the thing that, if you've got in mind making a course, I think the thing that you've got in mind to start off with will change when it meets real life and real people. When it actually kind of hits fresh air out of your head. And the only way that you can get clarity is to take action. And the only action that you can take is just to start making some free, low commitment, easy content to start with. And at that point, people will start telling you what they like, what they don't like, what they want to hear about, what they're struggling with. And that's the moment that you go, okay, now this idea is kind of crystallizing.
It's funny because like I mentioned, the first time I created the first course I created was Oxygen, and it was sort of inadvertent that I fell into it. I didn't do the pre-sale route because obviously I hadn't met you yet at that time, but but I had.
Well, you did all right.
It did extremely well. Yeah,
you did all right.
It sold more than I ever dreamed of. It was amazing. But I released it when my YouTube channel had about 900 subscribers, and I had no email list. I didn't understand the value of an email list at that time. But even still, within the first couple of weeks, it sold like 70 copies, which for me just blew my mind. And it was like, when I looked at the numbers, I was like, man, 70 out of 900, like that's pretty damn good. And the numbers just kept, going up and up and up. And so that was something I got hung up on with the Generate course, was like, the numbers don't need to be that big. They really don't need to be. You don't need some 15,000 person email list. Obviously that's amazing and it will do well. But even with the pre-sale that I launched for Generate Made Easy, I launched that when I had, I think it was like 250 people on the list, and I over doubled my pre-sale goal. So it was like, the numbers don't need to be that big. And
the numbers don't need to be big at all. What's more important is that you're producing content that is helpful, that people actually like. If you're producing quite generic content that isn't actually meeting the needs of the people on that list, then you're going to get crickets or not much else. Whereas if you've taken the time to really, we're talking simple methods like asking people, asking them, how can I help you best? If I could make one piece of content for you, what would that be? Just those very, very simple kinds of questions. I actually, still do get on calls with people as well. Sometimes if people have got quite an interesting view, it's like, do you mind if we hop on a call sometime and talk about it in a bit more depth? So if you're making content and selling a product to 250 people that meets the needs of all of those 250 people, people ask me all the time, like, what should I price my course? Is my course priced too high? Is it too low? And my answer, mostly within some reason, is price doesn't matter. The price is irrelevant. It's how well you communicate how that course is going to help them, that you understand their precise problem that they're going through. You understand the precise sort of picture of success that they want at the end, and you can communicate how your course is actually going to help them get there step by step.
Yep.
If you can communicate that, it's not about the features. It's not about my course is going to teach you how to do, create templates and custom post types. And that's great. And it needs explaining, but that's just the features. What people are really struggling with it's more the kind of like the higher level stuff, the sort of the struggles that they have, and the fact that they're being asked by, I don't know, I'm making this up off the top of my head, but asked by clients for particular kinds of functionality, and it's kind of causing them a lot of stress, and they're spending way too long on YouTube trying to piece together. There's lack of confidence as a web designer when they're sat in client meetings. I don't know. There's more to it than just, I am going to teach you how to use this tool.
Yeah.
The tool is just a means to the end result. And so it's not easy. And I'm not suggesting that any of this comes. I would always say to anyone, if you're thinking about making a course, please don't make the course before you've made some free content and built a list and pre-sold it. But otherwise, just get started. Just get started. You can worry about messaging and, copy and everything. But yeah, back to your point. I mean, there's that article, isn't there, that was written in, I don't know, the late 90s about sort of 1,000 true fans, which I've forgotten where it is or who wrote it even. But the idea is that you need 1,000 fans for your business. 1,000 fans would easily support $100,000 a year business. Easily. And it just goes into the kind of the specifics of, if you sell, a product and it costs this much and certain percentage of those buy it, and year on year, it just works out. Yeah, 100K.
It's really interesting because that's, I haven't read that specific article, book, whatever. But that couldn't be more true. I mean, I can attest to the accuracy of that, because like I said, the Oxygen course released to 900 people, and then by the end of it, it had sold like coming up on 1,100 copies or something crazy like that in just in 2 years. So easily,
exactly. And you were there at the right time with the right product, because people had a pain,
for sure,
a pain point, and you were there.
First mover advantage was to me, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it too. Is that was something that I thought was relevant for the switch to Generate, was like, there was Kyle in the space, and in terms of other visitable people, like Mike Oliver, and then other than that, it wasn't that crowded. So I thought, this is a great fit for me, and there's an avenue for me to plug myself into this, where
definitely.
In the Oxygen community, most of those people switched to bricks, but that became a crowded space. There was a lot of people. Kevin was making waves. There was Sridhar with his tech dev type tutorials. So many different people. It could rattle on 10, 15 different people. And
that's about I suppose the thing to counter that a little bit would be the fact that if there are quite a few people in a particular space, then that is sometimes a good thing, because it hints at the fact that this is actually popular, that there is demand, that a lot of people will think if there's a lot of competition, it's actually not worth going into. I hear this a lot. What's the point in me trying to even create online courses about some aspects of WordPress, when not only are there thousands of WordPress paid courses out there, but there are hundreds of thousands of free YouTube videos? What's the point? And it's, well, the fact that there is so much content out there and so many people doing it means that there is actually demand, definitely. But it also, I mean, for you, absolutely, within that market, within the sort of GeneratePress, Generate Blocks, I think Mike had been teaching Generate Blocks since about early 2020, hadn't he? He was the OG.
I was staggered when I saw how many of the starter site templates are built by him. It's like, scroll down the list, like 20, you click on it, it says built by Mike Oliver. It's like, damn. He's all over here.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, Mike's stuff is superb, isn't it? It's absolutely wonderful. But yeah, I think the other thing to say about the whole competition thing is that people buy from you and want to learn from you and like your particular style.
Definitely.
And I just think that's just beautiful, really. I think for about 5 minutes back in 2017, I had a little worry about competition and stuff. Now it doesn't even enter my head. And in fact, I enjoy promoting, helping, sharing other people who are doing the same stuff as I am, because what's the phrase about a rising tide raises all boats or something?
It's true.
Yeah, and I think it's just it's good to do that. Definitely, some people will like the way you teach something. Some people like the way I teach something, I know, for instance, I mean, I'll just pick somebody just off the top of my head, like, Kevin Geary. Kevin's got a very kind of specific audience. He's got a very specific style, and the way that he teaches, like, that's not the way that I would do it, and it's probably not the audience that I would do it. And like, bravo, brilliant. That's I just think there's more than enough room for everybody.
I mean, to that end, if you had asked me 18 months ago to work out a CSS course, to be, feeling out the audience for that, I would have said, oh, no way, I can't compete with Kevin Powell and any of the other people that have CSS courses. And then, after some consideration and going through this process a couple of times, it's clear that competition doesn't actually matter, because the volume of people signing up for this just to be notified when the pre-sale goes live is just so clear. It's so clear. And
exactly.
So yeah, it's definitely something I would have worried about in the past, but it's not worth worrying about for sure.
And that is just a perfect example of taking action. So just putting something out there. I mean, you could say, all right, you've got the benefit now of an audience and existing customers and things, which is great. Somebody starting out from scratch hasn't got that, but you've got to start from somewhere. Everybody started from somewhere. Started from literally zero, everyone. And so you've got to put it out and see what happens.
Definitely. It's so true. I want to be mindful of your time. I don't want to go too deep here, but I wanted to throw out 2 obligatory YouTube things, which is, please drop a like on the stream for us while you're here. I really appreciate that. That will tremendously help push this out, get more eyes on Dave. And also, if you have more questions, please drop them in the chat. There's been some good discussions going on here as we've been chatting.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through myself.
Yeah. So
people have been busy.
Very much so. This is great. The stream is doing really well. I like bringing famous people on because it brings a lot of people to the chat. Let's see. You're getting tons of compliments. Dave is an awesome teacher. Kevin, I assume, is still in the chat, and he said, I think everything should be pre-sold. I have to agree.
Amen.
Kyle was busting your balls. He said, listen to Dave always, if you can understand what he's saying, that is.
Even I don't understand what I'm saying half the time.
I specifically said in the description of our video that we like to waffle quite a bit. So
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. And so it came to pass.
Indeed. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to, if there's anything else for basic pages. I'm already using Gutenberg with the builders, providing the theme. Yeah.
Quite a few questions about courses, actually.
Any other good ones you spotted?
Well, just a few things, like small ones. Zach's asking about, in regards to courses, how do you handle the actual support side of things? Do you have common questions, answer with a support team, or handle it all yourself? Do you want to go with that one?
Sure. Well, I mean, for me, the volume of support is so low. You would lose money having somebody involved in it, and even then, that's with 1,500 course members. So it's like the only situation in which you really need to be involved is if somebody has a question. Usually I'm going to flip that around and make it a video and publish it in the course or some kind of piece of content. And then the other component would be maybe they want a refund and it takes 5 seconds. And for me, the support volume is really, really low. But I think it's worth mentioning that with what I found this go round is being much more explicit in the not the terms and conditions, but in the FAQs on the main site, and just answering like, avoiding a refund because somebody says this is too basic or too complex, being clear about who this is for, what you're going to get inside of it. And that to me has relieved pretty much all the support requests in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. If you can head those like common issues off at the pass before they become an issue. I use, well, actually I'm switching to a different platform, I think, but like stuff like Help Scout is pretty good actually. What I quite like is having like a separate interface which is away from my standard email. So you're not checking your email and just want to reply to a friend and there's a refund request like right in front of your face. Don't get many, but you think, oh dear. So it's quite nice to have something that's separate. Other people can hop on. I actually have had support staff, like an admin person helping me I think especially when No Stress WordPress was
Popping
like
off.
really flying off the shelves, there was just a lot of stuff, just standard stuff that comes up, you know, with people have lost emails, they've lost passwords, they've not lost passwords, but you know, so yeah, just helping. But Help Scout's great because you can just have like stock responses that you just click, send.
That's such a
It's
good
all
point
done.
that you mentioned that, because actually, when I hosted my Oxygen course on my WordPress site, I was using LearnDash, and the support requests of I reset my password but it didn't arrive, or just the
Yeah.
variety of things that were an issue. Then I actually have forgotten about having used Thrivecart for like, I don't even know what it's been, 10 months now, and
Mm,
I just don't have those problems anymore.
yeah, yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation, but you got me on the Thrivecart train, and
Oh, Thrivecart's amazing.
so good. So
Love it,
good.
love it. I think generally speaking, for me, I want to alter. I've been through different phases in the business of doing all the things myself and then kind of whittling down the number of things that I do.
Hmm.
For me, an ideal world will be that I just teach. I create teaching content, I teach live, I make courses, I make YouTube videos. End of story.
Hmm.
That's it. It's just literally just teaching and helping people. Everything else to do with any kind of graphic design, any like video editing,
Yeah.
any posting content anywhere, I'd love to get rid of. So, but yeah, I worked with support staff and a video editor at times, and all that kind of thing. So this year, I really want to ramp that back up again and try to whittle down what I'm doing to an absolute minimum until AI can take over,
And replace us
and
entirely.
I just won't even need to turn up.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
The Justin says Thrivecart's on sale, guys. Get it quick. That's hilarious. Has been for years.
Don't miss that.
I was gonna say on the topic of video editing, I hadn't even shared with you that a couple of months ago I hired an overseas video editor.
Huh?
Oh, she is incredible, and
Oh,
the
brilliant.
relief of, I guess that goes back to the question of support. You know, the things that you're responsible with. The support requests that come in don't feel overwhelming because I'm not trying to manage everything. I have a designer that I have on contract, and this video editor has been just kind of transformational for me. And the basically just being able to speak to her in the recording, and she manipulate the
Mm.
video and do the right things in that way is really awesome. And
This is the way.
yeah, it really is, because it's one of those things where I've always felt that designers and developers are two separate skill groups, where an extremely competent designer, it doesn't typically have the development skills, and vice versa. They're two different disciplines. And I think that that's true here. Even though we can create the content and we know how to record it and situate it,
Mhm.
having the skills of a really capable video editor, except for some cases we could probably name, they're not really compatible, in my opinion. I would get so
Mm.
frustrated. I'm like, man, I want to do this in the video, but it's like, well, now I got to learn creating keyframes and transitions and building these color maps, and like
Mm.
all those sorts of things, where if you really love it, you could get into it. But for me, just like you, I want to spend the time
Yeah.
recording and teaching and live streaming and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's that thing, isn't it, about your your zone of genius, I suppose they call it. Find your zone of genius and try as much as you can to do that. And ultimately do the things that you enjoy. So a lot of people will tell you, oh, you need to outsource, I don't know, like copywriting or this or whatever it is. If you enjoy it, if you enjoy that thing, then do it.
Mm-hmm.
I personally love writing emails. I love writing email newsletters. I love writing email sequences for course launches and things like that. It's just great. And probably people would say, no, dude, from a business perspective, you shouldn't be doing that, because you should be doing more of the I don't know, the value that
Irreplaceable kind of
you,
stuff.
the irreplaceable stuff that you bring to the business. Maybe that is, maybe because it's my copy and it's my voice and all that kind of thing. But for other people, like, it might be techie stuff. They might absolutely love putting together all the automations and the funnels and everything else, and Zapier and things. And like, great. Ultimately, it's about doing stuff that you enjoy and trying to ditch the stuff that you don't.
Yep, most certainly. Let's see who else we got in chat. Sometimes you have the one who can design and develop, which I love, that I can do both. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's worth mentioning. It's not a universal
No,
kind of
absolutely
claim,
not.
but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So what's coming next in the world of Dave Foy? So you have the full launch for Bricks Builder. What's the proper name of it?
It's called Build with Bricks.
Okay, I was thinking something along those lines.
Yeah. Build with Bricks.
So full
Yeah.
launch is coming, and then what do you have on the horizon after that?
Yeah, well, my focus this year is entirely on this course. So, as I said, this one is really just like a version 1. It's kind of my first stab at producing a course, and not producing a course. First stab at producing this particular course, and I really want to build the course out. I've got version 2 in mind already. I pretty much know exactly what that's going to be. It's going to be quite a different approach, actually. But yeah, so it's getting that course on sale. I'm going to be setting up so it will be available actually all the time, which is not something I've done before.
Yeah.
Normally I do kind of 4 launches a year and there's a big song and dance about them. But for me right now, it's going to be getting back on the YouTube train. I have neglected my YouTube channel for about 3 years, which is crazy.
Channel's just Dave Foy.
It's Design Build Web, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's the Design Build Web. So yeah, that's my plan. It's just to go all in on bricks. I've just got so many things to share.
Yep.
Really aimed at more at beginners. So people who are coming from other page builders who are scratching their heads thinking, I just don't know where to begin. I can't find a way in, to help those do that. And yeah, just build up this course, more of a community aspect to it, more resources. And yeah, I'm crazy excited about it this year. I feel like after about 2 or 3 years in the wilderness of the Elementor thing turning to crap, and finding, something that I can actually truly believe in and truly heartily recommend. So I just feel like I've found that now.
We had talked extensively
great.
about that exact belief and that true kind of intent. We talked a lot about that when I mentioned earlier, back in June, and that's really awesome to hear.
Yeah.
You don't need to divulge any trade secrets, but I was curious with my CSS course that I'm putting together. One thing that I really want to do is integrate almost like skills checks to make it slightly more interactive. I don't want them to be like walls where you can't get past them, but introducing a bit more interaction and kind of hands-on components as much as I can through a digital course. I was curious, are you thinking, you don't have to divulge specifics, but are you thinking something along those lines for version 2?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah, definitely. There is a thing I think generally with courses, and it's the reason I know some people don't really like the course model. They prefer the membership model where you're just kind of producing more one-off pieces of content on a regular basis, and there's a place for that as well. Absolutely. But for me, I still love the general basic linear nature of a course, because I like the fact that somebody's got a problem, they want the solution, and you're going to take them through that solution step by step. And a lot of the time, that step by step just needs to be revealed and unveiled as you go along. You've got to reveal concepts and get people comfortable with them. But yeah, my plan is I'm always, within my lessons, I'm always giving people tasks. They've always got to go away and do something. It's very rare that there isn't a lesson where they've actually got to perform something, do something. There'll be like an extension a lot of the time. So now that you've learned that, now think about this thing that's this other scenario where there might be kind of this extra complication. How can you use what you've just learned to solve this particular problem? So yeah, and then also have this kind of, I think with anything, once you've learned the core, bricks, for example, once you've learned the core of how the general sort of theme styling works, the core of how the editor works, the core of how classes work, and a few other little things. Beyond there, you can have, like separate little tracks, I suppose you could call them, that people can pick and choose and do without having to grind through 50 hours of that nobody finishes.
The track thing is actually so interesting because I considered that for this CSS course, where it's like, if you just want to watch, which I don't really recommend, then you might be able to go down, avenue one. But if you want to be involved, and I kind of pictured these like pauses in the lessons where I'm like, all right, now we're going to grab this class and we're going to do this. And then I'm going to wait and let the person, type it out on themselves and build in this kind of like almost over the shoulder approach.
Yeah,
And I don't know if
definitely.
it's
Yeah.
viable. I haven't explored it or even practiced it, but I thought about something like that to your point.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if do you know Brennan Dunn?
No,
Yeah, Brennan Dunn is an email marketing expert. He's a great guy, and he's got a course called Mastering ConvertKit.
I need that because
And
I just switched to ConvertKit.
yeah, well, he's doing some amazing stuff with the new version. So don't take the current version.
Okay.
The current version is kind of like a classic linear standard online course which you follow. I've told Brennan himself, so it's not a secret. I think it's a bit too long and a bit too complicated, and it's hard to see the end result. And he knows exactly. He's built his own courseware, I suppose, where because a lot of it is to do with code, and it's to do with like trying out different things and then seeing what the result is in ConvertKit.
I see.
So he's actually built a system where you can try all this stuff in the course. You can actually work on it right there and then in the lesson and see the results of it without having to do the scary thing on your live email list.
That's cool.
You can do it inside the course platform instead. It is so super cool.
That is very cool. That's the
yeah,
kind of
but
thing
it
that... Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say that's kind of the thing that I want is to be able to have the lesson completed and the student, I guess would be the right terminology, feels that they accomplished something rather than just watching it and clicking the little complete button and moving on. Having that sense of completion and like, look at the thing that I just created. That's something I'm really aiming for this next go round.
I think you're absolutely on the right track. I can't wait to see it actually. Is it available? Have you pre-sold it yet, or are you just kind of gauging interest?
So right now I have the page up on my site, and you can sign up for email notifications for when the pre-sale goes live.
So that's on the Permaslug.
It is, yeah. Right. Yeah. So I'm balancing a couple of things in terms of scheduling right now. I'm going to be out of town for a couple days, come back for a few weeks. Hopefully I'm going to have maybe the first module of that put together. And then I'm actually coming to Europe. I haven't even told you about this yet.
No, you did tell me.
Okay. Yeah.
You did. Yeah. Because I was trying to get you to come to our city.
You're right. Yeah. I'll be in London for a couple of days in late April, right around my birthday. So
nice.
We'll see if, maybe we can make something work in that way. But,
yeah.
But yeah, so that's on my radar too. So talking about, the overcommitment on the time perspective, that's kind of what I'm balancing right now is I'm pretty much ready to get rocking with it. But, I really don't want to be like, yeah, I'm going to have the module ready by, April 15th. And then April 15th rolls around. I'm like, I'm supposed to be boarding a plane and it's not ready. So
setting expectations is tricky.
It's
tricky, definitely. I think especially if it's something that you've not taught before. If you're making version 2 of the course where you've made all the mistakes, you've figured out the thing yourself, they say, don't they, that the only way to truly, truly deeply understand something is to actually teach it to somebody else. That doesn't half reveal your gaps in your knowledge and breaking it down. If you can break it down for a 5-year-old, you absolutely know the topic. And I find sometimes it takes a few iterations. You've got to make the course first.
Yeah. The first version of Generate Made Easy was not a slog, but it wasn't quite that. It wasn't quite as easy as I had envisioned it. And then the second iteration that I just finished a couple of weeks ago, it was like, I think I knocked out like 31 lessons in like, I don't even know, maybe like half of the time that version 1 took. It was like, so there was a lot of time investment on the front end, but the second version was not only quicker and easier, but the videos were so much better. I almost wanted to delete the old ones. I was like, these are just, it's not even close to the same in terms of quality. So it's absolutely right. But
nice.
I'm excited to see what you're going to continue with this year. The course being open throughout the year is going to be an interesting change and one that I think will be very welcome. I really do think that talking about the idea of like first mover advantage, I've thought for a long time that actually I guess would be the inverse of first mover now that I'm saying this out loud. The Oxygen success was very, I don't even know what I'm trying to say exactly. Bricks coming second, I think, is going to be very beneficial for it long term, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Because Bricks had the opportunity to sit back a little bit and watch what Oxygen did really well and watch what people didn't like. And they've already spent a great deal of time building the features that people want, making sure it's super fast, really flexible, not losing any of its capability. And so for you to be in this spot, my point is to say that that's very exciting. And I'm happy it's you that's done this.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Well, same with you as well. I can't wait to see what you do with GeneratePress, Generate Blocks. And I think the CSS course idea is brilliant.
The idea is that it's CSS for WordPress users, so more
Yeah.
broad
Yeah.
and can be applicable to any builder.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that because the Kyle's survey that he did with the builder percentages and stuff, blocks is increasing, but so is bricks. So I think we're all going to kind of see this ballooning of our relative ecosystems over the next few months, few years.
Yeah. I'm all for quality tools.
Absolutely. Me too. So
Definitely.
we're at an hour and 20 minutes. I want to be
Right.
respectful of your time.
Yeah.
It's been really good. We've held over 60 people this whole time.
It's been a blast, man. I think the audience numbers have been going up. You did say that they would.
Yes, they absolutely do. The chart generally is like a little wave as it grows and grows. Any other last questions for Dave or myself before we start to close this down? While we're waiting for the chat delay, maybe we can scroll back and see. There's been some great conversations.
James says, I like the unzipped hoodie look you both are rocking.
Yeah. It's funny because it's not even actually that cold outside, but I bought this, I have like a Sony DSLR cam, and it's weird because I did so much research on these cameras to figure out which one I wanted. And I was like, okay, I think I want this one. And then I watched a review and they're like, it overheats quickly. And I'm like, nope, can't have that one. And then this camera's been great, but I have to put my ceiling fan on in the room, or otherwise the camera overheats. So I'm like,
got you.
Freezing to death.
So you need the woolly gear on.
Yep. No one's wearing green today. That's true. Very true. James says, what courses are you both taking at the moment? Well, whenever this Mastering ConvertKit version 2 or whatever, that next iteration comes out, that's going to be for me. I actually meant to mention the reason I chose ConvertKit is the automation builder. So cool. I've been using MailChimp for a long time, and it just absolutely blew MailChimp out of the water.
Yeah, I've used ConvertKit for a long time now. I think since about 2012, 13, something like that, for quite a long time. Still things about it that niggle me, still kind of a few organizational things that bother me, but yeah, the automations are great.
The thing that I wasn't quite stoked on was to MailChimp's credit, the reporting is fantastic. There's so much granularity to the reports, seeing, what was opened and when and where, what was clicked, and ConvertKit has that, but not to the same depth. So I don't really think that's that big of a deal because the automations are so good, and that's primarily what I wanted. But we'll see how it goes.
Cool.
So one last request, everybody, please drop a like on the stream. But before we go, so you mentioned maybe like 2 weeks ago when I first asked you, I said, the deal here is you nominate who you want to see up next. And you said all you responded with was easy. So it seems like you had already known who you wanted to bring on. We've had quite a few different people so far. So who is your nomination?
Well, I don't think you've had him on so far. I mean, if you have, tell me, but I'd quite like to see Paul C.
I have not. I would love to. That would be amazing.
I think he would be a great guest.
Definitely. That would be really awesome. I see a couple people asking about Kevin in the chat. I'd love to have Kevin. So
definitely.
I'm gonna schedule that.
Gotta say, Kevin's in the chat. Hi, Kevin. Got to say, I have fallen madly for ACSS and frames. Such great products. Brilliant.
The success of his products are enviable, to say the least.
Yeah. Oh, it's superb. Absolutely superb. I was saying to Kevin in a message the other day that I've been using CSS frameworks since the first ones way back in the day, I don't know, 2000 and whenever it was, 5 or 4 or something. And yeah, it's just for me, it's just beautifully done.
I meant to
With
ask
all,
you, I know we're wrapping up here. I don't want to open up a whole nother can of worms, but I meant to ask
yeah.
you if that's why Webflow and Bricks were so appealing, because, you know, the Oxygen had a couple different frameworks that came out, and some people were trying to integrate Tailwind. And of course, Kevin
Mm,
built ACSS kind of in the Oxygen space. And I was
yeah.
wondering, are you using those frameworks heavily, or is it really something that is the next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my philosophy was to learn Bricks as good, the native functionality in Bricks, and I mean that was great. And I kind of built my own, just very simple little CSS framework, which was based on the kind of, I tried to keep it as simple as possible, the kind of regular styling issues that I came across, either to do with general kind of layout and spacing and typography. Sometimes it might be more to do with components and things like that. And that's great. And actually, that's what I teach in the Build with Bricks course. Is I actually focus the main part of the course on pure just native Bricks functionality, because you don't need anything else. But I had the task of just like my own website, davefoy.com, is very basic and simple at the moment. It needs
Effective.
a lot of work. I just scrapped it and started again recently. And I thought, right, okay, I dabbled with ACS, excuse me, with ACSS before, on a sort of a just purely kind of local install, and just thought, right, I'm actually going to give this a go from scratch with a live site. And yeah, I just thought it's just absolutely superb. I just love so for me, I'll be building my own sites with Bricks just with ACSS installed by default,
Yeah.
and frames as well. But for instance, I don't mean this to be a big advert for Kevin's products, but just from a purely personal point of view, this week I was running like I told you earlier, like a little flash sale to my email list, and I actually needed to quickly make things like a pre-sale opt-in page, pretty big sales page, a pricing page.
Yeah.
I also wanted to set up a few pages to do with like taking like consultancy calls and things like that as well. And how easy it was. Browse the templates. That's the template I want. Boom, boom, boom. And it just all works perfectly. It saved me hours and hours. And they just look great.
Kevin, you can clip this and use it in your
Thank
ads.
you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. I wish I had my affiliate link around here somewhere.
Yeah, for real. I'll stick yours in my description here for everybody.
Yeah. But that's it. So, I mean, I am to the point where I'm not made any decisions on this at all, but to the point where I am kind of considering making version 2 of Build with Bricks, which I'm going to make fairly soon, actually, because I've already got lots of ideas. Actually, maybe make ACSS mandatory. So if you're going to take the course, I'm just going to suggest that you buy ACSS, and that's the deal, because it just makes everything just so much easier.
Yeah.
You know, the typography, the responsive typography, the color management, and the spacing.
I remember seeing the design system you made for the Webflow course. Is that what you mentioned you created, the simple one yourself?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And that was just a simple kind of class-based design system. There was some stuff that was just like sort of set in default styles, and then it was great. But I hadn't used Clamp in there for the kind of the fluid typography or anything. So yeah, this has just been just so good, and easy to tweak as well. I just love the fact that it's almost everything is completely customizable. I've tweaked all kinds of different things to my own taste, and it's great.
I used it on a couple of those big Oxygen sites I was talking about, the kind of hefty membership type sites where you're dealing with sections and objects all over the place, all over the site, and it was really great for that. I think my favorite part was just the gap and grid classes. Grid -6 done, just really easy. That was nice.
Or you just grid on different responsive screen sizes.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, content gap and everything. Yeah, and just how everything scales beautifully. I just don't have to worry about scaling, spacing, anything at all. It's been a real joy, actually.
Hopefully the ACSS implementation for Gutenberg is nice and clean and I can make content on
Yeah,
that.
and then get in on that, definitely.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, good stuff.
It's been absolutely wonderful having you. We're at an hour and a half. I think this is a fantastic stopping place. So,
I think so.
Dave, I really appreciate your time. It's always a joy, and I'm looking forward to the day where I can give you a real life hug and say hello.
Yeah, definitely. We'll make it happen. Maybe in April. I'll see. We'll talk and
Yeah.
and figure something out.
For sure.
Definitely. Yeah, always a blast, my friend.
Thank you. How can people get in touch with you and find your bricks course?
If you just go to davefoy.com for now, and I think there's a little banner across the top, which is a thing where you can get notified about when it opens again, because I'll be opening it properly in like a couple of weeks' time, maybe. I will probably ultimately have it on its own separate domain, buildwithbricks.co, but for now it's just on davefoy.com.
Awesome.
You'll find it.
Perfect.
Can't miss it.
Thank you very much again, and we'll see.
Thanks, everyone.
Of course, we'll see everybody again next time.
Yeah. See you later. Bye.
Bye.